247 votes. Now in Kasipul constituency, Boyd Were declared Kasipul Member of Parliament elect, succeeding his late father, Ongondo Were, who was murdered, of course, in cold blood. Right now in Banisa constituency, Ahmed Malim Hassan of the UDA declared as the Member of Parliament elect for Banisa constituency. Now let's take a look on some of the of course we've talked about Moses Okoth, who was running with the ticket of the ODM party, has been elected for the Member of Parliament elect for Ungunja constituency. And of course, now let's take a look on the members of the County Assembly. Sophia Bamadawa Maro, that is from Kia of UDA, elected MCA Chewani Ward, that is in Tana River County. And of course, Isabella Leshimpiro of UDA wins Angata Nanyeki Ward by election. And of course, yesterday Boyd received the IBC certificate after being declared the Member of Parliament elect. All right. Now, the UDA, Moses Mpusia of UDA declared winner in the Puko ward, that is in Kajiado, by-elections with 2,085 votes. Sanare Saidimu of DCP came in second with 1,517 votes. Right now, that's the snippets of some of the results that we are reaching our news desk this particular morning. Of course, the IEBC are continuing, tallying the votes in several parts of the country where the by-elections was actually, taking shape. And of course, we shall be bringing you, or rather, we shall be having this exclusive interview right here on EBN television. We try to make sense of the just concluded by-election. What does it mean for Kenya in the coming 2027 general elections? And of course, that's a conversation you don't want to miss. That's coming up to you later on in the program. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines on the dailies today. And I'm having the Daily Nation newspaper dated today, the November of the 20th day of November 2025. And of course, it is the last Friday of November. All right. Now, top story on the Daily Nation: broad-based team in a strong showing. Of course, there are candidates. Several candidates in the highly contested seats, that is in Malava, Mbeere North, Magarini, and Kasipul, and Seth Panyako, DAPK, and of course David Indakwa of UDA, that is in Malava. And of course, we actually don't have those particular results for Malava. And of course, I shall be updating you in regards with that particular Malava parliamentary seat. And of course, Mbeere North, that was Newton Karaoke for DP party. DP party is allied to the former cabinet secretary, that is Justin Muturi. It is the Democratic Party. Newton Karaoke came second after Leonard Wamodende, who clinched the victory with 15,802 votes, that is in Mbeere North constituency. Now in Magarini constituency, Harrison Kombe from ODM and Stanley Kenga from DCP. Of course, those also the results for that, we are yet to have them. Of course, I shall be updating you as soon as we have them. And in Kasipul constituency, Boyd Were, who was vying with the party ticket of ODM party, was actually announced winner, and of course handed over the certificate as the Member of Parliament elect for Kasipul. And Philip Aroko, who was an independent candidate, was breathing on his neck closely, even as he clinched the victory of that particular seat. Now, yesterday there were chaos witnessed in several parts of the country, including Malava, where we saw a car was touched, right? And we saw fracas. A member allied to the UDA party was alleged to coming to the electoral stations with jacket purportedly having colors of the UDA, which Justin Muturi said that was infringing the laws that are in place in as far as elections are concerned. Now, the DAPK leader Eugene Wamalwa and his party candidate for the Malava parliamentary seat, Seth Panyako, check on the Downhill Springs Resort worker yesterday at Webuye Hospital, where the worker was attacked by goons and was also vandalized vehicles and destroyed property at a hotel owned by Mr. Panyako. And of course, there are pictures there of the man in the hospital bed. All right, and of course, also there is a picture there of an SUV which was actually vandalized. All right, and also the Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament Peter Kaluma and with Kasipul ODM candidate Boyd Were, that was yesterday addressing journalists at Ogoro Sari Primary School in Homa Bay County, where Mr. Were cast his vote. Now the MP was attacked by goons at the polling station. All right, now moving on to other matters now. UDA and ODM parliamentary candidates had taken an early lead yesterday in most of the constituencies as vote tallying progressed late into the night. However, it was neck and neck in the hotly contested Mbere North and the Malava constituencies. Now let's take a look at that particular story on page 2 of the Daily Nation. And an early result placed the broad-based government political camp ahead of the united opposition in the by-elections held yesterday, giving an edge to President William Ruto's 2027 general election strategy. Now, in the parliamentary races, preliminary results put the ODM candidates ahead in Kasipul, Ugunja, and Magarini constituencies, while President William Ruto's UDA made a strong showing in the Banisa constituency and the Baringo senatorial race. Ahmed Malim was ahead in Banisa, while Vincent Chemitei took an early lead in Baringo. Now, broad-based camp takes lead in early polls results. Now, 6 is the number of parliamentary by-elections that were held yesterday, and one was Senate race that was yesterday. Mini poll that was in Baringo, where UDA had a strong showing, and 24 are the total number of the elections that were conducted yesterday across the country. Now, to other matters away from by-election, Oburu returns home to bury his sister, and ODM leader Oburu Odinga jetted back into the country yesterday following the death of his younger sister Berry Lachieng Odinga on Tuesday. Now, the Odinga family, patriarch and spokesperson, had traveled to Dubai on November 21st for what Ruth Odinga, Kisumu women representative, and his sister described as a short 3-day break following an exhausting and emotionally draining political period. Now, the death of Beryl comes just over a month after the passing of former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga on October 15th. Now, since Raila's death, the family has received a steady stream of mourners, dignitaries, and supporters at Opoda Farm and Akango Kajaramogi, all coming to offer their condolences and share in the grief. Of course, our condolences pours out to the family of Oburu Oginga. All right. Now, let's take a look on the Standard newspaper. We take a look on what the Standard has to say as far as the just concluded by-elections in the country is concerned. Now, top story on the Standard newspaper this particular morning, ballot bloodshed. Now, what should have been low key by-elections erupted into full-scale battlegrounds as gangs took charge of polling stations, rebels unleashed hired muscle, and police watched chaos unfold. Now, across Kasipul, Malava, Nyamira, and Turkana, voters were battered, vehicles torched, and candidates hunted down in broad daylight. The coordinated violence, brazen intimidation, and open display of crude weapons laid bare the frightening vulnerability of Kenya's electoral system. And of course, there are pictures there of some of the chaotic scenes that were witnessed yesterday. And of course, there was a man whose video was circulating on social media who was actually stripped for alleged he was alleged to have come to cause chaos. And of course, there are pictures there, of course, of a car that was torched yesterday in Malava, and the confrontation between Justin Muturi and a man that was yesterday witnessed that was in Mbere. Now let's take a look at this particular story is on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. And of course, before we do that, actually on page 2, the Standard gives us a chronology of events that unfolded yesterday from voting exercises where voters turned out to vote, to the chaos that erupted yesterday, of course, to the the vandalized cars. Pictures are there, of course, of the probox that was parked somewhere in Oyugi's police station was vandalized, and Mbeere North candidate, that is Leonard Wamudende, and his wife Edin Kanyiri, after voting in Chicago Social Hall polling station, that was yesterday, right? Also in Kariobangi North, KANU candidate Peter Ng'ang'a, picture is there as he cast his vote. That was in Kariobangi here in Nairobi. Also, DAPK candidate in Malava election, Seth Panyako, weeping yesterday as party leader Eugene Wamalwa confronts him at St. Joseph Lonyo Primary School polling station. That was also yesterday in Malava. Now let's take a look at the story on page 4. Now, ballot bloodshed, violence, rampant vandalism cast shadow over polls. Now, yesterday's by-election was supported, was supposed to be a normal exercise in democracy, but despite the few electoral areas taking part, what unfolded was anything but a routine. Now, from the outset, the process descended into chaos characterized by campaign clashes, bloodshed, and destruction of property, transforming a simple vote into one of the most violent by-elections in recent memory. Many were injured, businesses looted, and communities left in shock. Of course, putting this in mind, this is actually, the first election, the first election for the newly appointed commissioners in the IEBC, right? And there was witnessed, this loss, businesses looted and, cars vandalized, and of course, even public assets vandalized. And I don't know what this actually means to you, keeping in mind that this was just in 6 constituencies, that was in 18 counties, right? What if it was, conducted in all 47 counties, and is the IEBC capable, of conducting the general elections in 2027, having in mind what transpired yesterday in a by-election, right? Send me your thoughts through our SMS line to 3059, of course, through our Facebook page that is on EBN TV Kenya. Now, also on page 6, matters to do with the IEBC. Now, IEBC anti-graft agency police as in a spot over lack of bite during polls. Now, laws in yesterday's by-elections have exposed numerous challenges facing institutions charged with conducting free, fair, and credible elections. Now, political pundits argue that institutions mandated with setting electoral standards provided in law have either failed in their work or they are deliberately abetting the vices to benefit some. Now, under focus of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that is the IEBC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that is the EACC, National Cohesion and Integration Commission, that is the NCIC, and the National Police Service, that is the NPC. Right? Now, the opposition has complained about the open bribery to voters, or rather of voters, including dishing out of relief food, blankets, and mattresses in Malava. Now, yesterday, the media also witnessed the bribery of voters in Mbeere on election day. Now, in Malava, the IEBC Code of Conduct has been flouted with impunity. Broad-based government leaders led by President William Ruto's aide Farouk Kibet have camped in the constituency for months, campaigning before the official campaign period began. Now, it has been a high-stake campaign that Kenya Kwanza was determined to win by hook or crook. Now, but it has not been an easy ride because opposition leaders led by Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya and their DAPK candidates, that is Seth Panyako, have also given them sleepless nights. Now, the IEBC also ignored the recommendation by EACC that an aspirant who has been accused of 645 million Kenya shillings public money fraud, be denied ticket to vie for the Mbere parliamentary seat. Now, all these developments paint a warning picture as the country heads to the 2027 presidential elections. Right now, that's on page 6 on the Standard newspaper this particular morning. Now, all these developments, paint a worrying picture, actually, for the first timers. That is, talking about the IEBC. Now, this was a litmus test for the IEBC, right? Whatever the IEBC, did or will do for these by-elections, that will make, the public, to gauge the IEBC on their possibility, to conduct the general election in 2027. Now, claims of bribery and voter suppression in Magarini by-election. Now, claims of voter bribery and suppression also marred the Magarini by-election yesterday as rivals allied to the broad-based government and the United Opposition exchanged accusations. Now, low voter turnout was reported in all 193 polling stations across the 6 wards in the constituency with 80,182 votes. Now, ODM's perceived strongholds were worst affected. Now, at 3 p.m., data from the Magarini returning officer Joseph Mofondo indicated that the turnout was 31.08%, as 24,905 voters had cast their votes. Now, state agents intensified relief food supply in Shakama as voting went on in what the opposition claimed as a form of bribery or tactic to influence the voters. Now, it is not only in Kasipul, Malava. Now, in Magarini, there were claims of bribery and voter suppression that marred Magarini. Now, here in Nairobi, there was a few turn up in the vote in Kariobangi North. Now, the voting excess in Kariobangi North, the ward in Nairobi, witnessed a significantly low voter turnout yesterday's by-election. Now, spot check by the Standard observed that only a few people had cast their ballots by noon. At Kariobangi North Nursery School, for instance, a paltry 118 voters had voted against a total of 671 registered voters. Similar incidences were witnessed at Our Lady of Fatuma polling center, where only 128 voters against a total of 609 registered voters had turned out by around 3 p.m. Now, these figures only represented 17 and 21% respectively, with the election officials at the station expressing doubt in the possibility of recording a significant turnout at the end of the close of voting. That's on page 7 on the Standard newspaper. Also, there were witnessed low voter turnout in several polling stations as well. That is in Mukongolo polling station, that is in Kabra's Malava constituency. Low voter turnout leaves electoral officials idle in deserted polling station. Of course, yesterday, in yesterday's footages, you could see the IEBC officials were many as compared to the people who have come to vote. All right, that's quite worrying and unfortunate. Now, we'll be having a conversation in regards to this, these stories that are happening. And of course, my panelists are actually in studio with me, but we are coming up to you next. In just a few, we're going to discuss matters by election. How has that been so far? And what does that mean for the coming 2027 by-elections, or 2027 general elections, given that the IEBC, this was their first by-election, to conduct since they were, given that particular office, or sworn into those particular offices this particular month. And just so you know, that the Leo Wamadende wins Mbere North parliamentary seat with a total of 15,802 garnered votes, and in Ugunja constituencies, Moses Okoth wins Ugunja constituency by elections with a total of 9,447 votes. And of course, in Kasipul, Boyd Were declared Kasipul Member of Parliament elect, succeeding his late father, that is Ongondo Were, who was actually murdered in cold blood. And in Banisa, Ahmed Malim Hassan of UDA declared Member of Parliament elect for Banisa constituency. And of course, we shall be keeping tabs with, the tallying of which is currently ongoing in several polling stations in the constituencies. And of course, we shall be keeping tabs with that, and we shall be bringing you, subsequent results in regards to the by-elections, as far as the by-elections are concerned. Of course, you'll remember that in Mbeere North, that particular seat was announced vacant after the then Member of Parliament, that was Geoffrey Ruku, was actually appointed by the head of state, that is President William Ruto, to go and chair the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service. That's when that particular Mbeere North parliamentary seat was announced vacant. Of course, in Kasipul, the office was announced vacant after the then Member of Parliament, that is Ongondo Were, was murdered in cold blood. All right, that's what are some of the things that is happening, or some of the things that you are waking up to this particular morning. We shall continue keeping tabs with that. Of course, coming up next is a discussion in regards to the by-elections, the just concluded by-elections. And of course, that's so you know that the tallying is currently ongoing. All right, do stay with me for that particular conversation. We're taking a short breather here on Morning Live, but we'll be back in just a bit.